Hey friends, welcome back to Horror Stories Bedtime. Take a deep breath and picture cold sea air and gulls. Imagine walking on a small boardwalk to a motel with salt stains on the steps. If you enjoy these stories, press like and tell me your town below. Now let the fog come in. I drove up the coast to a motel called Harbor Watch. The owner was a fisherman's wife who kept a bowl of hard candy on the counter. The motel sat near the beach, and you could hear waves even when the windows were shut. The first night, a child's kite tangled in the parking lot. The owner said the kite had been there forever. The town loved the motel because it was near the pier and the diner that made clam chowder. I was tired and sat by the window with a mug. At midnight, the motel alarm rang. It was not a fire alarm. It was a bell the owner kept on the desk. 3 rings, pause, 3 rings. The sound came from the coastline like someone tapping on the pier. When I walked out the door, the sand was smooth except for small marks leading to the water, small bare toes in the wet sand. At the edge of the water, I found a small wet journal. Inside, in a shaky hand, someone wrote, "We left them with the tide so they would not hurt. We thought the ocean would hold them softly." On the next page were names. On the next page, a small drawing of a lighthouse. The owner told me that years ago a storm had taken a boat. People on the pier watched and prayed. In the days after, children found shells shaped like hearts. People started leaving small notes in jars for the ones lost. The motel kept them on a shelf. At night, the motel hummed its own tune. Sometimes when the fog is thick, you can hear a name called from the water. It sounds like someone reading a list. A voice calls, "Tom, Jenny, Mark." The sound is soft, but the water answers back and the road holds the echo. I took the little journal and read the names aloud. Some names I knew. Some were new. When I said the names, the water moved strangely, like it nodded. A gull cried, and then the sound of the motel washing machine turned to the hum of the ocean. Before I left, the owner gave me a jar of sand. She said, "Keep it on the windowsill. When you see the fog, open it and whisper a name." I kept it. I keep it now on my shelf. If you ever walk to the water at a small coastal motel and find a jar with a note, take it home. Whisper a name. The ocean listens. It remembers like an old person with good pockets. Hey friends, welcome back to Horror Stories Bedtime. Breathe, picture tall pines and snow packed thick. Imagine a small motel with warm blankets and a hot coffee pot. If you love slow stories, press like and tell me your state. Now let's go inside. I was driving up to a ski town when the weather closed in. The GPS said the road would take 3 hours. Snow came hard. My car slid once and I decided to stop early at a small mountain motel called Pine Hollow. The owner, a woman in a flannel shirt, checked me in and handed me a thick blanket. The motel had a small lobby with a stack of local maps and a shelf of cassette tapes. A bulletin board held flyers: lost dog, 2nd grade potluck, snow rescue volunteers. The town felt close, the kind where everyone knows your name. That night the wind made the eaves sing. I lay in bed and heard a light tapping like someone walking down a hallway with small shoes. At first I thought it was kids, maybe teen skiers. Then my phone buzzed with a message: "Don't fall asleep if you hear someone hum. If you do, wake and tell them a true story about your home." No number, no name, just that line. I laughed at myself. I was in the mountains and my brain wanted to make things more than snow. I kept the blanket tight and listened. The tapping grew into soft knocks on the window. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks. The pattern had followed me. I sat up and looked out. The strip of parking lot held a pale figure near my car. It wore a coat but no hat. Snowflakes clung to it like freckles. It lifted a hand and pressed a mitten to the glass. I opened the door and there was no one, only my breath and a smudged handprint. I found a note stuck in the snow by the stair rail. "Tell a true story. We like truth. We collect small things." Inside the motel lobby, a box held small things: broken sled parts, a mitt missing a pair, a faded state championship ribbon. Each had a short note with a name and a memory. I began to tell the small true story that night. I told the motel about the smell of my mom's pancakes on Sunday. I told them about a baseball game I had gone to and how the crowd cheered until the sun went down. I spoke slow, like a prayer. The tapping softened. The figure at the window seemed to listen. At dawn, a man came to the front desk. He was thin and his beard had frost in it. He said he had saw a woman sleeping on the lobby couch and she had asked him to tell the motel a secret. Her secret. She lost her son in a snow drift many years ago. She left a small pine cone by the door. He handed it to the owner and left without coffee. Later that day, the road reopened and I left. The motel stayed warm in my rearview mirror, but sometimes on winter nights when the wind sings, I remember the tap at the glass and the soft voice that said, "Tell a true story." I tell one now for you and for that woman at the couch. I remember the way my father clapped at a small summer game. I remember his freckles like sun on a field. I say his name now softly. If you are ever snowed in at a small motel with a thin lamp, keep a true memory in your pocket. It might be what the night wants. Hey friends, welcome back to Horror Stories Bedtime. Take a breath. Picture rain on the windshield, tall pines leaning like they're listening, a small inn with a warm light. If you like these quiet nights, press like and tell me your city below. Now let the rain come. I drove up I-5 but took the slower road along the coast. I stopped at a small inn in Oregon. It sat at the edge of a town with a diner and one gas station. The owner ran the place like it was family. She gave me a room on the second floor and a mug that smelled like coffee. The inn had a porch with a porch light that made a small pool on the wet steps. The sign read Cedar Rest Inn in flacking paint. In the breakfast room, a framed photo of the town fair hung crooked. The town felt quiet. People waved like they did in small towns, slow and meaning it. The first night I heard footsteps on the roof. Not heavy steps, small, quick, like someone running in a hurry. I thought it was raccoons. But the next morning I found small handprints on the window from outside that nobody could reach. They were clean and neat, as if pressed by fingers into the glass. At night the inn hummed with the house sound, the radiator ticking, rain on the roof, a distant dog barking. I read my book and sipped tea. Around midnight a woman knocked, not at the door but at my window. I walked over and saw a wet sleeve and a pale face looking in. The face was thin and tired, with hair slick against the forehead. She whispered, "Are you staying here tonight?" Her voice sounded like wet cloth. I let her in. She smelled like the woods. She said her car had slid off the road and she came to look for help. Her name was Ruth. She kept glancing at the door like she expected someone else behind her. She said small things that made me feel the air of the town. Shepherd Church bake sales, the high school football field, the diner salsa that won prizes. She talked about normal things like maps you fold wrong. Then she said, "I keep hearing the radio call the names of people from the vanishing road." She looked at me and smiled like she had bad news to hand over gently. "If the inn hums at night," she said, "you must say where you are from. The hum remembers. And if you hear your town, don't answer right away." I asked her why she came to me. She shrugged. "It asked for a listener," she said. I walked her to the front desk and the owner laid out a blanket. We gave her tea and fixed her shoes. In the morning, we found deep prints in the mud outside. The car had gone. No sign of it. The road was slick. The town talked that day at the diner like the weather had changed them. Someone said a missing trucker had been seen near the same turn last month. A girl at the counter said she woke with the smell of salt even though we are inland. That night the inn hummed louder. The radiator tapped in a different rhythm. I heard a voice under the rain. Simple words, names called slow. I read from a small list I found in the Lost and Found, names of people who had once lived in the town, the kind of names that come with years attached. Mary, Lewis, Otis. After each name, the house seemed to breathe. I learned then that people sometimes leave things when they are afraid: toys, shoes, a coin. The inn had a box of lost things, and each item had a sticky note with a date. The sticky note smelled like lemon. Someone had left a chalk drawing under a table with 3 shapes: a house, a heart, a road. When the hum asked for my name, I answered quietly. "I'm from the city," I said. The house listened and let me be. Ruth smiled in her sleep, and the next morning the mug of tea had cooled but tasted like the sea salt at the lip. Before I left, I walked the road and taped a note to a telephone pole. It read, "If the hum calls, say you're home. I hope someone finds it before a storm. I hope someone listens." If you ever stop at a small inn on a rainy night, folding maps in your lap, remember the town names you hold. Keep them like pocket change. They might be what the house asks for. And if a stranger knocks at your window, be kind, but keep your promise to yourself first. Hey friends, welcome back to Horror Stories Bedtime. Before we begin, take a slow breath. Imagine a long road, neon signs blinking, hot air that cools fast at night. If you like this calm place, press like and tell me where you are in the comments. Now let's begin. When I was a kid, my uncle drove me down old Route 66. He loved the neon signs. He said the road remembers the people who drove it. Some places keep memories, he would say. I thought it was a joke. Years later, I was driving across the state after my truck broke down. I took the old road to get a part. At dusk, I passed a tired motel called the Bluebird. The sign still had neon, but half the bulbs were out. A moth-eaten flag hung limp on a pole. The office light was on. I stopped because I needed coffee and a phone charge. The motel had a small office and a single long hallway. The owner looked like a man who worked too many nights. He wore a coffee stain on his shirt. He did not ask many questions. He gave me a key and told me to sleep inside the room. He said nobody came in late like that without a good reason. The room was small. A TV from the 1990s sat on top of a dresser. The bed smelled like lavender and dust. I plugged my phone in and sat on the edge of the bed. The neon outside painted stripes across the sheets. I felt tired and safe. Around 2 in the morning, I heard the bell. The motel bell went ding, ding, ding 3 times. I thought it was the owner checking. Then I heard a knock at the door. Slow, patient, 3 knocks. Pause, 3 knocks. I froze. I peeked through the peephole. Nothing there. No cars, no person, just the road, black and empty. I opened the door a crack. A small paper cup sat on the mat. It had a diner logo and a dry ring inside. No footprints. When I closed the door, the lamp on the desk flicked off. A shadow crossed the room. For a second, I saw the shape of a small boy near the window. He stood very still, looking out. I walked to him, but no one was there. Only my breath on the glass. On the nightstand, I found a folded paper. It read in small letters, "If the bluebird hums, tell it your name." The ink was fresh. I did not know who had written it. I tried to sleep but heard humming under the wind, a soft tune like an old radio. The hum came in waves like a song someone forgot the words to. When the hum stopped, a voice whispered near my ear, not loud, just a breath. "Say the name." I left the room with the light on. In the hallway, I found the guest book. The last entry said, "Left at midnight after the road called my name." The handwriting trembled like the writer had been cold. Outside, the neon sign blinked 3 times and went dark, then blinked once. From far down the highway, I heard a truck horn. I thought of my uncle and how he said roads remember. I thought of the little paper cup and the hummed song. Before I walked back into the office, I put my hand on the motel door and promised out loud, "If anyone is lost, I will say the name." I sounded like I was braver than I felt. I brought the folded paper inside and left it on the counter. As I sat by the office window, the radio turned on by itself. A voice talked soft about lost travelers and home pies. Then it cut to static. The owner looked at me and said, quietly, "Don't answer the door if you hear your name." He tapped his finger on the counter like it had a memory. I went back to my room, but I kept the lamp on all night. At 3 in the morning, I heard the knocks again. 3. Pause. 3. I did not open. I whispered in the dark, "Who's there?" A thin voice answered, "EJ." I felt the letters like ice. I did not know what they meant. The radio below sang slow. The lamp hummed like it was tired. I repeated the 2 letters, EJ. The sound felt wrong and right. The next morning, a small red shoe sat by the mailbox. It was clean, like someone left it there today and then walked away on soaked socks. The parking lot still had the ring from the paper cup. I left the motel before noon. I did not feel like I had solved anything. I drove down the road with the Bluebird sign behind me, beads of dust on the windshield. When I looked in the rearview mirror, the neon blinked one last time, like a wink, like it remembered me. If you ever drive Route 66 at night and see a blue neon sign, don't be too quick to pass it by. And if you hear 3 soft knocks in the middle of the night, don't open the door right away. Sometimes names are a way to come home. Sometimes they are a way to stay.